We're not going to pretend that promoting a video game is easy. Whether the property is awful or awesome, to condense a title's most desirable qualities into a 30-second advertisement is a tricky bit of business. As a result, a lot of gaming companies rely on all sorts of eccentric tactics to sell their products, and, well, they don't always work. With that in mind then, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 worst video game adverts of all time. Number 10, The Ostrich, Final Fantasy IV. Because of how convoluted the storylines of Final Fantasy can be, you'd assume that every title would have a hard time selling itself in commercials. Surprisingly though, Squaresoft's biggest franchise always had a knack for filling their adverts with a sense of wonder and awe, even in the earliest games. So, when Final Fantasy IV was about to hit shelves, the developers knew that they really had to make an impression. And since the sequel was filled with magical crystals, airships, secret worlds, and battles with space wizards on the moon, it seemed like there was a ton of content to use for the promotions. Instead, though, the commercial shows a laughing ostrich running across a beach. This TV spot is so absurd that you'd assume that Squaresoft would ensure that they never promote their work in such a ridiculous manner ever again. Instead, though, they released another ostrich-related advertisement for Final Fantasy IV soon after. And the weird thing about all of this is that the commercial could work if the people behind it tried to dress up this ostrich as a chocobo, the iconic bird-like character in the role-playing series. Instead, the studio just decided to use an ostrich, a creature that doesn't even feature in the game. Number 9, use your controller to undress women. Juiced. As the old adage goes, sex sells, and some companies don't even try to be coy about it, parading busty characters like Lara Croft, Tifa Lockhart, and Ivy Valentine in all promotional material for their respective games. But the British commercial for Juiced took the sexualization way too far. In this advertisement, two males are playing the racing game in their car while a woman walks by in the background. As the gamers change the color of their vehicles on Juiced's customization screen, the woman's clothes begin changing as well. Realizing they can customize the lady's clothes with their controllers, the gamers then turn her dress into a miniskirt and increase her bust size, before removing her clothes completely, exposing her uncensored breasts. Just when you thought the commercial couldn't be any less appropriate though, they then have her butt branded with a Juice logo as if she's cattle. To the surprise of no one, the commercial generated a ton of controversy which led to it being banned, and in case you were wondering, the game itself was also terrible. Number 8, Mountain, PS2. With 155 million units sold, the PS2 is the most successful console of all time, a record it's maintained for over 2 decades. However, it's kind of a miracle that the PS2 sold so well due to its bewildering advertisement campaign. Although PS2 owners should be well acquainted with David Lynch's Crying Doll advert or the Mental Wealth promo, another that deserves more attention and scrutiny is the Mountain commercial. Now at first, you might think that this crowd is fighting over the newly released PS2, but no such console appears. In fact, there's no hint as to what this so-called advert is selling until the very last second. It's also kind of paradoxical how this clip concludes with the tagline, "Fun anyone?" as there are many words to describe how this video presents itself, and fun is not one of them. Number 7, Humping Mouse, Game Boy Micro. It's bizarre how Nintendo tries to maintain a family-friendly image despite releasing juvenile and crass commercials. The trailer for Yoshi's Island, which depicts a gamer imploding, is kinda gross. The Witch Doctor teaser for Dr. Mario is in very poor taste. The infamous You Can't Beat Us advert for the NES looks like it was designed to create nightmares. They have a lot of mistakes in their portfolio. Which brings us to the commercial for the miniaturized Game Boy Advance, also known as the Game Boy Micro. Because this system wasn't as bulky as its predecessor, the advert could have easily demonstrated how convenient the Micro was to hold, carry, and put in any gamer's pocket. Instead, the clip shows two scientists watching a mouse in a maze humping the machine. So it goes without saying that this 30-second promo was incredibly ill-fitting for a Nintendo property. Instead of thinking about the console, I'm just kind of thinking about the psychology of this animal. Does the mouse prefer the Micro because it's smaller? Does it like the games? Nobody is watching this rodent getting his jollies on Nintendo's latest handheld and thinking, shut up and take my money. It's like, just put that away. Number 6, Sega does what Nintendo don't, Mega Drive. Oscar Wilde famously said, quote, "One should always play fairly when one has the winning cards," or to put it another way, only the loser plays dirty. Furious that the Nintendo Entertainment System outperformed the Master System, Sega decided to be more aggressive with their advertising campaign for its successor, the Genesis. The Genesis commercials emphasized everything the console could do, and more importantly, what Nintendo's successor, the Super Nintendo, couldn't do. To hammer this belief in, these adverts regularly concluded with the iconic tagline, "Genesis does what Nintendon'T." These adverts claimed that the Genesis was the superior system due to harboring a blast processing chip, which allowed characters like Sonic the Hedgehog to appear to move at incredible speeds. However, the SNES was pretty much better in nearly every other department, including background scaling, sprites, color palettes, maximum resolution, audio, and boasting over 100 times more colors. Basically, the Genesis's hardware had one advantage over the SNES, forcing Sega to oversell it. Now, this argument admittedly isn't to suggest that these adverts are badly shot or edited, it's just all a bit too much posturing for a company that's barely around today. Number 5, breastfeeding zombies, Resident Evil 4. The French trailer for Resident Evil 4 begins with a mother sitting on her bed cradling a newborn. As the baby nestles into her, it's a wholesome scene, but after a few seconds, the clip pulls the rug out from under viewers, revealing the woman as a zombie. But the zombie isn't just holding the baby, she's actually breastfeeding him. Now, a breastfeeding zombie certainly makes the advert memorable, but it's the kind of lame, shocking moment that only ensures it a place on obscure lists like this, not in the mind of the public. Number 4, it's too long. Hey You Pikachu. The commercial for the N64 exclusive Hey You Pikachu does do a great job at demonstrating the game's peripheral, that being a microphone that allows the titular Pokemon to react to the player's voice. Within the first 20 seconds of watching this clip, you perfectly understand how the game works. But then the advert keeps going for another 2.5 minutes. Even though there's nothing else to add, it just keeps showing more examples of Pikachu reacting and responding to the player speaking. And ironically, this actually makes Hey You Pikachu come across as just boring, since the advert repeatedly emphasizes how the adorable yellow mouse wouldn't be responsive at first, since it takes time for the Pokemon to get used to the player's voice. If the commercial ended after the first 20 seconds, Hey You Pikachu would have come across as 10 times more appealing. Number 3, it's G-rated, remember? Jam Sessions. The advertising campaign for Jam Sessions emphasized that this Nintendo DS exclusive would make the player feel like a rock star. And when you look at the American commercials for this Ubisoft title, everything looks pretty solid. Sadly, promotions in Australia were a little bit more problematic. This advert starts pretty innocuously, depicting a child being gifted with Jam Sessions at his birthday party. But when his mother comes in with a cake, the kid starts swearing because it's just a sponge cake and nothing very special, you know, it's just sponge and a bit of jam. But okay, there's a difference between just a little bit inappropriate and outright bad, so the director did another commercial for Jam Sessions in which we see a kid receiving the game from his scantily dressed aunt. As a thank you, the child sticks his tongue down her throat while, cupping her breasts to boot. Even though this sort of campaign would be inappropriate and juvenile for any gaming property, it's all the more offensive since it was utilized for a game tailored for players over the ages of 3. Based on these adverts, we know nothing about Jam Sessions except that it's musically themed. Number 2, insulting gamers, Mighty No. 9. Fans were so hyped that Mighty No. 9 received quadruple the funding that it asked for on Kickstarter. Sadly, all that excitement was obliterated the instant the trailer was released. Although the gameplay looked fine, the presentation was undercut by a snarky narrator who just couldn't stop churning out dated jokes. The teaser's most infamous moment though is when the narrator says the hero will, quote, "make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night." Now, not only is this an unfunny gag, but many Mega Man fans love anime, so it's kind of an insult to the entire fan base. And do you know why they love anime? Because Mega Man himself was inspired by a manga and anime character, Astro Boy. Number 1, seriously? Kirby Canvas Curse. In this advertisement, we see the absolute freak that is Kirby going about his day with a disembodied finger. And as a concept, that's fine. I mean, it's a little bit weird, but it's mostly inoffensive on paper. But unfortunately, in practice, unless the finger is displayed at a very specific angle, it kinda looks like Kirby is having fun with, well, having fun with a different organ of the human body. And here's some free advice: if Nintendo wish to maintain their family-friendly image, they should probably avoid having their mascots appear in promotions where it seems like they're playing with a penis. If you were wondering why there's a finger in this commercial in the first place, it's to emphasize how you need your digits to maneuver this character around in Kirby Canvas Curse by using the Nintendo DS's touchscreen. In fact, the game requires a stylus to be used on the touchscreen instead, not your actual body. So if Kirby was chilling out in this commercial with a giant stylus, that would have made sense. I mean, it kind of wouldn't, but it would have at least been more acceptable than watching Kirby being pushed on a swing by an incredibly phallic object. And this whole situation is even more inappropriate in Japan since the game there was retitled Touch Kirby. No, I don't think I will. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Can you think of any video game adverts worse than this lot? And do you remember any of these on TV yourself? Let me know, and while you're down there, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.